Recording locked. Okay.
Okay.
So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is your many projects.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you like decide like, you know, which one, you know, when it comes time to like put out an album or like play a show, like, you know, who you're gonna, you know, if you're gonna be solo, if you're gonna be with like this group of people or that group of people.
Right. So by many projects, do you mean there's this trio? I play solo. Are you thinking of other projects as well? Which other projects do you do?
You have jobs.
Oh, jobs.
And
okay.
just things like that. Like.
Okay. So yeah, they're all function very differently. When I play solo, I have a lot more freedom and flexibility because it's just me. So I can say yes to anything I want to, and I try to because I like playing. I used to play with pedals and things, and I've been playing more acoustic lately, so I don't really even need a PA if necessary. With this trio, it's more complicated, but not too complicated because we are an acoustic group, so we like can play anywhere. We can play at the bookstore, we can play, but more I have to adhere to their schedules, you know. And I'm definitely more discriminatory about what I'll say yes to for this group because they're both very busy, and I can really only ask them to play performances that are really like worth our time. You know what I mean? That group really can't play somewhere loud. So if someone like asks me to play at a bar, I'm not going to bring that group. I'll play solo viola in a bar. I don't care. I'm not going to bring that group into certain venue situations. That group works best in like a gallery kind of thing.
So they be quiet so you can like really focus on the music.
Well, the music is quiet. It's really hard to play in a loud place, and also I compensate them, so I need to make sure it's something worth. Well, a lot of gigs we get are compensated, and there's gigs that they're not compensated, but it's a performance I really want to do, so I will compensate them out of pocket because it's something I want to do. So it has to, that particular project costs me money, so it has to, I'm more discerning about what we do. But this tour, like I deliberately, when I booked this tour, I wanted to play with friends. I tried to play with friends that we knew in New England and every stop. Like there are things like that that are important to me as well. This band has only toured twice. This tour and 2 years ago, because the overhead for me it's a lot, so I can't really do it that often. So, and then like with jobs, that's a whole other thing because we actually don't play that much anymore because we all live in different places. And with jobs, I'm one of 4, so I tend to like step back a little bit in the organizational part, and I chime in where I can and do what I can. It's definitely in a more transitional space since Max moved to LA, but there was a while when Max and Dave were all in New England and New York/Connecticut, and it was a lot easier. But you know, and Rob was in New York too, but Rob's been in the Midwest for a long time. That is a whole other. I don't really have much say in that. And then like I'll do these larger projects. When I did that album Low and I did Clamor, those were just pieces that took me like a year to write and had like one performance. And it's probably like 2 years of preparation went into both of those albums. One came out in 2001 and one came out in 2003. I had the idea for the pieces. I don't know that I would love to perform them again, but I don't know if they ever will be performed again. I came up with the concept, and for both of those I literally spent a year applying for funding to make the project happen. And in the year that I was applying for funding, I also started writing the music, like wish fulfillment, like I'm just going to start writing this and hopefully it'll come together. And they did come together. And so in the time that I found out it was able to happen, in order for me to schedule all those musicians, one was 10 musicians and one was 7 musicians, I think. You know, it's months of planning in advance. To plan the rehearsals. The venues that I performed those pieces at, like Roulette and Pioneer Works, I got in touch with both of those places a year in advance. So I basically was working on the project, working on funding. Once I found out I had the funding and I knew the project could happen, then I reached out to the venues that I wanted to present them in, like a year in advance. So that's how that works. That's less of like a band and more like a project-based thing. I'd love to perform those pieces again, but I'd need like Bill Walker to give me a ton of money to go there. I need money. I can't with this group, my trio that I'm touring with, like, if I don't have funding from a venue, I can sometimes swing it on my own or sell merch or that kind of thing.
So when it's like, hey, we'll give you like a cut of the door, and then there's like 7 people, and they're like, here's $20.
That's no, I would never do that. With Lull and Clamor, those projects, I would never ever do that.
It's like something you can't do that
it's
way.
It's not possible. So. With the trio, I could. The way this tour worked, like full disclosure. I mean, I'm just talking about financial breakdown because that's. But this isn't really what you asked, but this is what's coming out of my mouth. I don't even know if this is useful.
This is what it's turned into.
We can go back and
talk
about the financials of it. We don't need to talk about the financials.
It's always interesting to me to know like what happens.
So
this
is what happened is I knew this record was coming out. I knew I wanted to do this tour, and I just figured out how to budget for it. In February, I had a gig at Dartmouth College where they brought me up to perform my orchestra piece, and whatever money I made from that, I saved to use to pay my bandmates for this week, and then I had 2 guarantees on this tour which covered our Airbnb bill, and then I don't get paid, but so now all of the door and whatever I sell on merch goes first for gas, and then whatever's left over goes to pay me, so I get like the leftovers. But that's how I make sure. So knowing that, you see why I can only tour this group. I don't know. I mean, on this tour, I'm like, I don't know if we'll ever be able to do this again, but it wouldn't. If we did, it wouldn't be for a couple of years. And we don't really play in New York that much, honestly. I feel like when we play in New York, like, there's not much. I don't really have a draw in New York for some reason. But like Lampo in Chicago brought us out there. There's been some isolated things. The Gardner Art Center in upstate New York brought us there. Once in a while, like a random art situation will contact me and be like, we want to bring you, and we'll go do like a one-off concert. That's kind of what decides when this trio can play. I'm not just going to be like, hey, let's play a door gig in New York for no reason. It has to be like a informed decision. Yeah, and I would like to play with them more, but it's just how it is.
So, with the theme of like money and stuff, though, like, would you say that, like, as a person like me or whoever listens to music, like the best way to like help support artists like you is like to buy merch or
buy merch, yeah. Buy merch and go to the shows. I do think that, just from my experience in New York City, nobody buys merch. I only sell stuff when I'm traveling. So if you're seeing a touring band, buy their merch. Buy it from them. Don't buy it from their label, because they might. Like, I don't see any money from when things are bought from my label, depending on the label. And yeah, go to the shows basically. Bandcamp is always good. Yeah.
Bandcamp has that one day a month where they waive all the fees.
Yeah. Bandcamp, I gotta say, I've done really well with Bandcamp.
That's where I typically go. Like, usually when I'm in my car, I'll listen to Spotify, admittedly, which is bad, because, like, I know when you stream Spotify, like, nobody gets money for that. Yeah. It's, like, the only people that get money are Spotify. But I
think that Bandcamp, like, you only get money if someone purchases the album.
Yeah, you don't get money for streaming on Bandcamp.
No, you don't get money for streaming.
You have to buy, like, the music, or you have to buy the actual, like, physical item.
Yeah.
But Bandcamp does that thing, too, where it's, like, you have to spend, like, you have to earn, like, $100 or something, and then you get your payout. Like that sort of thing?
I don't know. No, when people buy, no. If someone just like, I have some solo record, I get, so full disclosure, my Bandcamp with Astral Spirits, it shows up on my Bandcamp, but it's connected to them, so it goes to them. But my solo records, which Relative Pitch puts out, that are on my Bandcamp, goes to me. And so once in a while, I'll get like an email being like, so-and-so just bought your solo record. It's like my solo records are like $7 or something, and Bandcamp takes like $1.20 or something. So I'll get like a PayPal statement for like $5.80. It doesn't have to be. You'll get it for every single sale that happens, and they just take like $1 or so. Yeah.
They take their PayPal fees.
Yeah.
Like everybody takes a little cut first, and then.
Yeah.
So what do you think about like physical media? Because I know your new album is on record. So like physical media in 2024.
Well, I have a record collection. I grew up collecting records. and I've been thinking about this a lot on this trip because we're driving in the car, and I'm like, I don't know what I want to listen to. I don't know what to listen to. Because you can literally, I don't have Spotify, but I have Apple Music. You literally can pick from anything in the fucking world. And there's something about being home and flipping through my record collection and seeing that helps. I find it very hard. There's pros and cons. I find it hard to make a decision because anything is at my fingertips. But then it's also cool when, like, I'm reading a book. Like, I like to read musician biographies and books about. If I'm reading a book and they reference something, like, oh, I wonder what that sounds like. I can pull up anything. So I do like that. So there's pros and cons. I like having CDs because you pull out the CD, choose it, and you listen to the whole album all at once without having to flip the record. I don't know. I think that they're both have benefits and deficits. I do appreciate that. Like, I could just be thinking about, like, a Roy Orbison song, and be like, I want to hear it, and, like, I can hear it, you know. But I get really indecisive about knowing what to put on. So what I actually end up doing is listening to college radio. Most of the time when I'm home, WKCR, which is like Columbia University radio station, or WFMU out of New Jersey. I just listen to the radio most of the time. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I think that's like weird for physical media now because it's like a lot of kids like will stream stuff and that's it. Like they don't.
A lot of kids have never had. Sorry, I cut you off. So what were you gonna say?
So it's like they don't know like between like records and cassettes. Like the things that they do is they have like two sides. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like. It's fun when you're listening to an album, even if it's not like on record and it's just out there in the streaming world where it's like 10 songs. You think of like, okay, this 5 is the first side, and this 5 is the second side. So you kind of have that little break in between where it's like, you know, you want to have that kind of structure where it's almost like, you know, it's like the 5th song then should be almost like as big as like the 10th song because you know you're making this big like almost not the grand finale but kind of like a thing where it's like, okay, now I got to get up and flip this and then go to the other side. So it's like
I think that like a lot of kids don't know what, like, going to the record store, like, what that, they never had to do it, and not that they never had to, but I had this experience recently. I was in Vermont, and I went to a record store with my friends. I almost never go to record stores because I live in New York City, and, like, the price of records in New York is disgusting. I was in Vermont, in Brattleboro, and we went to the record store, and I saw this Etta James CD, and I picked up the CD. I was like, I'm going to get this. And I put it down, and the guy at the counter was like, oh, yeah. He was talking about, specifically, it was like some Rolling Stone list of 100 best album covers, and he's like, this album cover was rated higher than the Nevermind album cover, and it doesn't make any sense. Look at that album. And we were just, like, having a dialogue with a person. Like, I wouldn't have known that. I didn't know. It was just, like, the experience of like going into a store and having an exchange with a person. I'm a music nerd, you're a music nerd. We're gonna like have a conversation based on this thing that I'm buying, which is an experience I hadn't had in such a long time because I haven't like really gone to the record store much. You know, I think that there's something about that. Like it was like a thing to do. You go to the record store, you chat with the dude who works at the store, the woman who works at the store, you meet your friends there, like. And that just doesn't exist anymore. But that is not just indicative of buying records. It's indicative of our entire culture at this point. You know, and there's just something nice about the physical, having the physical. And I do feel like I never have put out anything that's like a Bandcamp only release ever. I always have to have something physical. And I don't know if it's just because that's how I came up, or to me it doesn't seem like it's not real unless it's there. Also, not that I care that much, but like, I care less and less. A lot of writers won't review your record unless they get a physical copy. So for a while, I kind of felt like CDs were sort of like these elaborate, like business cards. Like you got to hawk your CD around to the reviewers. It's like a business card. Are they really gonna? They're probably gonna stream it while they're writing about it, but they need to. And it could just be like they need to. I don't know if they have a thing where they think, oh, you're more legit. Like if you went to like. Got your elbow greased to like make a point to like lose more money and make a physical. You're really committed to your art because you're crazy enough to lose more hundreds of dollars printing something. You know what I mean? But I kind of am a little ride or die with that, where I don't think I will ever release something that's not physical as well. I actually really like CDs. I'm happy that in the past year 2 labels were willing to release vinyl for me, because I haven't released a vinyl since 2014. It's the only other vinyl I've released, and I love vinyl. But I think CDs are great. I'm really into CDs, and I feel like for a while they were dying out. Tapes, everyone got bananas over tapes, which is funny because you remember in the 80s, like, the fucking your Walkman would eat your tape constantly, like having like we hated tapes in the 80s, and then like it became this like retro thing. And I feel like, I don't know, you would know better than me, raised by cassettes. Do you feel like tapes are on the way out and CDs are on the way back?
I don't know. Every year there is an article by some like major publication that's like trendy pop culture or music related, where they're like, cassettes are on their comeback, and it's like they've been on their comeback for the past like 15 years. But
yeah.
I think.
Well, I will say, sorry, I cut you off. Hold that thought. On this tour, the last 2 years ago when we toured, people were eating up my cassette tapes. This tour, people aren't eating up my cassette tapes as much. Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's hard because, so I think like vinyl kind of came back first as like a retro thing where everyone's like, I want this, but it became like very expensive. So I think that people like cassettes because they're kind of like a cheaper alternative.
And that's why I got into vinyl initially. Like when I was in high school, which would have been like the early 90s, is I would go to the record store and everything was like dollar bin, and I would just flip through, and I would. Oh shit! Did I forget to cancel my student's lesson? Sorry. No, I canceled it. Shit. Oh, sorry. I just remember just buying a bunch of shit, and it would be like $15, and that's how I discovered music. I don't remember records being expensive when I was in high school. Maybe they were, and I was just buying the dollar bin crap. But I have to. Sorry. Does that all make sense?
What? Yeah.
I forgot. I know I canceled the lesson. I just forgot to take that out of the calendar. Yeah, as you were saying.
So I think CDs are kind of going to come back in a sense, just because CDs can be cheaper than records, and it's just something different that I don't think has had enough like exposure lately, where it's like, you know, you can go to like a Goodwill or whatever and buy like a thing of blank CDs, and then just like dub your own CDs and sell them.
If you have the right. I mean, I remember CDRWs like back in the early 2000s. Like I would just go to the library and get a bunch of shit and then make my own. But computers don't even have CD drives anymore. So can you even do that? Is there a way that I just don't know?
You have to get them. I mean, I have I have a PC that has the drive. It's like an older PC, so it has the CD drive. But like, yeah, I upgraded my laptop, and when I upgraded my laptop, I didn't get a CD drive, so I was like,
I fucking hate that.
For like
Apple
a year or two.
Apple decides how you're going to listen to your music.
Yeah.
It makes me so irate.
For like a year or two, I didn't have a CD player. I didn't have a way to listen to CDs, and I was just like, what do I do? Like, you know, like people send me CDs to review sometimes. I need like a CD player. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And you can, but it's not practical to like go to the store and buy like the like boombox thing with a CD in there or whatever. It's not.
Yeah,
not the same.
My car has it. You know what? You can. I looked on Amazon recently because I thought my CD player broke. You can order a CD player for like $35. And I have it hooked into like computer speakers or something. My whole stereo system is a mess. I have one set of speakers for whatever. You can buy them, but I have one in my car. So I have CDs in my car, and I wish I had a tape deck in my car, which I don't. But I noticed actually, because I just went on a really long road trip, and I was like, I never bring CDs with me. I'm like, I'm going to bring CDs with me. And I went through, and I picked like 20 CDs, and like, I mean, by the end of the trip, there was shit flying all over the car. There was cases. Everything was getting lost. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember what sucked about this. Because back in the day, you had like a CD book.
Yeah.
I had my CD book, and actually, it got stolen out of my car in like 2010 or something. So I just have kind of loose CDs, and it's a mess. It's a total mess, and if you're not organized about it, like in the car.
You put them back in the wrong cases. Put like 2 or 3 in one, like in the same case.
Yeah.
So then you have like the empty case, and you're like, I want to listen to this, but like, where's the CD for it? And then you got to dig through everywhere to find it.
It was kind of funny. My friend got in my car like a couple weeks later, and she's like, what the fuck?
But I like that too. Like when you go to like record stores, you know, it's like the thing of being in person with somebody too. Is like you can kind of, you know, it's that idea where it's like if you like this, then maybe you'll like this. But like if you go there enough, like because when I was in the 90s, like going to the mall to like the record store, I knew like one of the managers there.
Yeah.
He like got to know me where he would be like, you always come in here and you buy stuff like this.
You know, they know your
you should listen to this too, you know, and they have like, you know, here's Dave's picks. These are the ones that he likes. And you're like, well, I have similar taste to Dave's. Let me pick him. And so that's something that you don't get as much. Like Spotify will recommend you music, but it's
don't trust them.
It's not the same. Like it's not, you know.
Yeah.
Spotify's like, you listen to this now. You like Drake, right? Like, check this out. You should like Drake. And it's like, no. I don't like Drake. They just. I feel like Spotify always is just kind of pushing like whoever's making the most money for them.
I'm sure. Oh, I'm
so that
sure.
They
Their
can
agenda
help you,
is not about you and your
you know?
taste, and no, they don't give a shit.
They just want to make things popular and make money, and so it's just.
Yeah.
We're going through this whole thing now too, where everyone, especially with movies like VHS and DVDs, everyone's like, you know, stuff is happening with streaming like in that way, where like movies are getting taken off of streaming, so they're like, this is like, I see YouTube videos where it's like, this is why it's important now to start like your DVD collection or like your, you know, VHS collection again. It's like, I think that's going to come back around for music too at some point, where it's like, you know, people are going to have like that value of like the physical thing, because it's like if your Wi-Fi goes out for whatever reason, you put on a record or a cassette, you're good to go. Like, you know, so and
there's also something about, I mean, I don't tour as much as I used to, but there was something about like going record shopping on tour, and you have a record and you're like, I remember I bought this record you know, in Detroit. I remember that record store in Detroit, and I got this, you know, it's like it's more meaningful.
Yeah, there's bands I see do that where they're like, these are all the stuff. This is all the stuff we got when we were on tour. Like all these records they post, and it's just. And then it's fun too, because then it like.
You have the time to go shopping, so you got nothing to do.
But it's good in the sense that it like spreads it too, because then you're like, okay, I like this band, and then this band bought like this record here. So like if you go to the store, then like a record store, and you see that record, you're going to be more inclined to buy that too, because it's like I like them and they bought this, so I'll give this a listen too, and then you know, so it all. That's how it should be. Like, you know, like it's not like word of mouth, but it's something. Like that's how it, you know, just people like shared interests and stuff. Like just being like, you like this and I like this, so then if you like this, then maybe I'll like this other thing you like too.
Yeah, I guess like I have a lot of millennial friends who will just like, you know, they'll text you a link to something to check out. They'll text you like a YouTube video, or I don't know, you know, there's ways to share, I guess, Apple Music tracks. I don't know, because I'm slow with everything, but yeah, it's just like their version of doing things is all like through a text or something. Yeah. But it takes away like the person who works at the record store is like the connoisseur, you know, of like their job to know what's going on. There's just also, I don't know, it could just be me. I get overwhelmed by the fact that there is so much information now. It's paralyzing to me. It's so, because you don't have to put out physical media, anyone can just throw something up, which I think is great, because there's probably some really amazing people who don't have the means to produce something and they get to share their art, but it also means like the people are kind of like half committed or also throwing shit up. Like in order to like go through the process of actually making a record, you have to be slightly insane and committed to actually want to go through with all of it, so you just know like there was some time and love put into something, you know? I don't know.
That's why it's hard for me to like review music, because it's like I get emails from like both of the people where it's like, you know, I spent the past like year working on this, and like I want you to hear this album, and then it's the person who's just like, you feel like
I recorded this, it was 5 minutes in my kitchen, put it on SoundCloud, boom, I dropped the record.
It's like I made this last night because I have GarageBand. It's like I have GarageBand too, but you know, I'm not asking people to review my music.
Well, we can with 3 minutes. And we also can talk while we walk.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to, we can stop the interview here.
I don't know what other questions you have.
It's been 23 minutes.
Do you have other questions?
No. I mean, I always have questions, but I feel good.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I give you enough to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the perspective of like your interviews like musicians' relationship to physical media? Is that like kind
of? A lot of the ways, yeah. Just because I do like dwell on that a lot. Just because I have like. Let me stop this before I say this. I do.